All right, rock and roll. Welcome to the Scorched Earth Political Podcast. I am your host, John. And if you could hit that like and subscribe button, it means a lot to us. And here we're looking for a little more raw, a little more honest view of what's going on in the world of politics. Seems like under the Trump administration, it's a dumpster fire every day. So we got quite a few things. But I try and aim. I was talking to somebody today, and I think the thing about this podcast, what makes it a little more unique, is we're talking about things that are maybe off the beaten path a little, that still are relevant, what's going on. Look, I know Donald Trump is doing the scam on the crypto. I know all that stuff, but man, I don't need to hear 40 goddamn videos of that a day. I mean, we all know it. He's a criminal. He's a gangster. He's what he is. Let's find some other stuff. I thought it was kind of interesting yesterday talking about Pete Hegseth at the fence actually wiretapping his own aides so he could get him ousted, and we don't even know if he actually did it, but he told the White House he did. Of course that's unconstitutional, but let's not even deal with that, right? All right, here we are, our mantra: we're taking no prisoners, telling no lies, and let's burn it all to the ground. All right, today a new acronym is popping up in the financial markets, which God bless these creative people. And this is courtesy of Financial Times journalist Robert Armstrong in a May 2nd column. And he says Trump is taco. Now, what the heck does that mean? Taco. Now, to me and you, that's something delicious. I live for Taco Tuesday here in Southern California. I'm sure you do too. I don't know if I trust people who don't eat tacos. Just saying. Just saying. But TACO stands for Trump Always Chickens Out. And we've talked about this previously on the podcast, that his big thing is he announces 145% tariff on China, or a 50% tariff on the EU last Friday. All products, 50%, blah, 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 blah. And what happens is the financial markets do a nosedive, right? They go down because it's not good for the business economy in this, and the business sector in this economy. And next thing you know, he walks it back a day or two later. He's like, oh, okay. Like, for instance, with China, he did the 145%. And then next thing you know, 3 days later, he walked it back with a 90-day pause because he can't handle the heat. The guy's a pussy. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, look, make up your mind. There is nobody who has an IQ over 3 or 4 who's believing when he says, oh, there's 145% tariff, that in 30 days it's still going to be around. I mean, really, this thing has less of a lifespan than a newspaper. Okay, literally 24 hours later, this thing's gone. He's already trying to find a way out of it. Oh, I'm negotiating. Yeah, I sure are, buddy. And I'm negotiating with Scarlett Johansson for an arranged marriage. Doesn't seem like it's working that well, right? At the end of the day, last Friday, he announced a 50% across the board tariff against the EU. The after hours financial markets, especially coming out of Japan and China, were so devastating that Monday he put it on a pause because it was Memorial Day. Of course, that's in the great Memorial Day tradition where he called most of the people in the United States scum. You remember back in the day when Hillary Clinton said those people about the MAGA, and it was so reprehensible and it was so terrible. And in his Memorial Day tweet, Trump said, literally 3 days ago, he said, the scum in America, the leftists, the journalists. I'm like, wow, scum in America, huh? You're calling Americans scum. In this country, we can agree to disagree, but I'm not calling MAGA scum. I'm not. I don't agree with what they do. But like I have said on 1,000 different occasions, most of my ecosystem is Republican, is MAGA, and they are the nicest people in the world. How they got to where they are is different paths, different journeys, okay? But I do know this, that like my brother Bill, him and I couldn't be more opposed ideologically, but I have seen that guy do so many selfless things for so many people, including myself. Him and I were carpooling one day, and I got back to my truck, and this is late at night. This is after a long day, and my starter was out of my truck. My starter was out of my truck. What does Bill do? He gets in his truck, he goes to the auto parts store, gets a starter, and he put it in my truck. Literally. He took 4 hours of his day, especially when he wanted to go home and have a cold beer. That's, look, at the end of the day, and I'm thankful to have my friendship with him. He is just literally one of the nicest people I've ever met on my journey. And he's a MAGA. He's a die in the wool. Okay, whatever his issues are his issues. Okay, but getting back to the thing is, and I'm not even sure what the thing was at this point, right? But Trump doesn't hold the line at all. That guy has no backbone. This dude is like Gumby. I got to start calling him Gumby. I got to start thinking of an acronym with Gumby. Maybe I'll get some more listeners and subscribers, right? Hey, hit that subscribe button, please. And this is what Trump constantly does is he announces a tariff, he announces something. Why don't you why don't you have this kind of backbone with Harvard or women's reproductive rights? How about something like that? There, social issue, man, that guy locks down and he just never leaves. Well, maybe he's not smart enough to figure out what he just did, but hey, there's that too, right? So, the other good news of the day was Elon Musk criticized Donald Trump's tariff plan, his big, beautiful tax plan, which he said wasn't going to cut enough. Now, this was orchestrated by him because he needed a way out. All right. I think it is more than coincidental that on Monday of this week, his SpaceX's Starship, their 9th test flight, blew up in the air, the third straight one that had blown up in the air, right? His brand is deteriorating. He has literally destroyed Tesla. 80% of the buyers are Democrats. Well, how do you think the Democrats feel? They're not going to go buy a Tesla. I think most of the people, if they had the Tesla, would get rid of it. Unfortunately, the resale value is so piss poor, you can't offload it for a bag of chips. Okay? So now he sees decreasing sales in all the blue states in Europe, were his biggest markets, and now he's trying to figure out how to save it. This just in, the Doge was about as effective as the Cybertruck. Not very, right? He went to Doge. He made all these cuts. He cut 121,000 jobs, right? He says he saved $150 billion. You know what the hell this guy did? He cut the regulatory agency at the SEC that was investigating SpaceX and Tesla. Oh, wow, what a shock. How bad? What's the final receipts here? Well, I'm going to tell you what the final receipts are. He cost the government $300 billion. Well, how do you say that, John? He cut salaries and stuff like that. He cut 40% of the staff at the IRS. The conservative projections are we are going to lose $400 to $600 billion in taxes coming into the government. You know why? Because the rich people are going to cheat even more than the son of a bitches already do. The average person isn't cheating, right? We don't have the capability of cheating. We don't. You get your W-2, you go to your tax person, him or her, and they tell you, okay, this or that. The rich people are looking every way to cut every angle. You ever see The Firm with Tom Cruise, where he tells the gangster, the big real estate developer, he goes, hey, I could save you 0.5% on your taxes and delay paying it for 3 years. And he goes, they may not catch you, and then you won't even have to pay it. That's what they're thinking. We don't think like that. We're not in that stratosphere, okay? And hey, good thing Donald Trump wants to give them even more tax breaks. Hey, more room to cheat and less IRS. Wow, what could go wrong there? Son of a bitch. So Elon Musk is leaving the government. He made the announcement. And honestly, what he's trying to do is trying to rehab his image. That's it. Because his big base in terms of selling is Tesla cars is to liberals. We all wanted to buy a Tesla so we could save the planet, ecologically minded. And he is going to, I'm going to tell you right now what he's going to do. He is going to package Starlink. Also, let's not forget, Canada said that they were going to cancel Starlink contracts. They haven't done that yet, but I got a funny feeling that's around the corner. And all these Starlink contracts with all the European nations might be going away too. At the end of the day, he's going to try and recede into the weeds and try and rebuild this company. Let me tell you how you're going to rebuild your company. You better come up with a better product than that trash can on wheels called the Cybertruck. Okay? It's a crappy design. You had a good design 10 years ago with the Tesla, good idea, and then literally you were doing ketamine and doing DMs to women you wanted to impregnate on the internet. Okay? Maybe you ought to get back to developing a product that anybody actually wants. Just saying. Just saying. And I'll tell you this. I am going to buy an electric car, and I'll tell you what. You could pull my effing fingernails out before I buy a Tesla. There's just no way. And I don't care personally if they get rid of him as the CEO or they move him around, they do some little office shuffle. I ain't buying it. I am not buying it. That guy is a jerk on a jerk. F you, Elon, and F you again. Okay? You could take your $300 billion and go stuff it up your butt. And hey, maybe the two women who are suing you for support because you've never seen your own kid that you artificially inseminated with them, maybe you ought to give them some money. Hey, this just in. Maybe you don't start the cost cutting in your own house with women who have your kid. All right. Finally, the last story of the day, and this just really pisses me off. This gets me going. This gets the juices going. J.D. Vance. He walked with all the press and all the photographers over the Israeli embassy yesterday, and he made a heartfelt apology. A couple Israeli staffers were killed in the streets of Washington, D.C. last week by, we believe, a pro-Palestinian gunman. Terrible. He expressed his deepest condolences for himself and for our nation. Kudos to you. My question to you is, how come you weren't there on January 29th on the runway at Ronald Reagan Airport where an American Airlines plane and an Army helicopter collided, killing 67 people? It was 5 minutes from your office. It was 5 minutes from your house. Well, your office is probably the latrine. It might be 5.5. But you or Trump didn't actually go there. You're going to make a big public spectacle about going over to the Israeli embassy and, with 1,000 cameras. Oh, I'm here to honor those people who have fallen. What about the 67 people who died in that runway because of a terrible mishap? You couldn't go 5 minutes? You couldn't pay homage? That was when, if you remember, Trump made the snarky comment when a reporter asked him, are you going to go to the site and pay homage to them? And he goes, what do you want me to do? Get in a swimsuit and go in the river? No, asshole. We'd like you to go to the banks and at least say some kind words. Barack Obama did that in 2013 in Buffalo. He flew up there to actually pay homage to the people who died in that terrible plane crash. Just saying. Just saying. I guess when you have the press, it's better to honor 2 Israelis than 67 Americans. Maybe your eyeliner, J.D. Vance, was going to be obscured if you did it in the dark. Maybe you're going to have some Herman Munster eyes. I don't know. I'm just saying. But at the end of the day, I'm just saying. Right? All right. That's it for the Scorched Earth Political Podcast. I appreciate you. And I love you being here and supporting.